what's up? Red Panda Anthem. Red Panda, what's good? Red Panda Anthem.
Why should we be concerned about Canadians withdrawing money out of banks?
This is a good story. It's actually
explain the story.
Yeah, Troy, explain. All right, so basically, what's been happening is obviously the COVID restrictions in Canada have caused numerous round of protests, and so what Trudeau, who's the prime minister, said is that, you know what, if people are going to protest and they're not going to seize the protest, we're actually going to start freezing bank accounts from the people without having a court order. So that leads to like a lot of conflicts, right? Because like how is this possible, right? This isn't even legally possible. So they said that only the people who are obstructing the streets are going to be not just everyday citizens, but people who are actually obstructing, which begs the case, well, how do you know who's who, right? Unless you have facial identification. But what it also does is this, and I'm glad we talked about crypto right before this, because it gives you a very strong case for cryptocurrency. Because if you're threatening to take my money and freeze my account, or freeze my accounts, what happens when I start taking my money out and put it into an asset that you can't freeze and you can't trace? And so it's a very interesting topic, man. And I know some people had their accounts frozen. So prayers up to everybody up there. Obviously, COVID has the vaccine and not taking the vaccine has been an issue throughout all of North America, but obviously in Canada, it's gotten to a head now where it's something that should be taken very seriously and we should be paying attention to.
Crazy. Honestly, this is not something that it sounds like Canada would normally do. It sounds like something Trump would have done. And we are in crazy times when we're like, hey, Trump wouldn't do that. So even the people that donated to the truckers $50, $100, some of them got their accounts frozen.
Right.
So if they begin taking their money out, and God forbid if that ever happens, and I know truckers in the United States have been talking about going on strike for at least a year. God forbid if that happened here, it's going to make an incredible case for crypto. But man, if there's a run on a bank, and for those of you who don't know, a lot of these banks that are major banks don't have the solvency and liquidity that they act. So the ones that were opening accounts and were not authorized to do so, if there was a run on their bank, it would be over with very fast, and it will lead to a 2007, 2008 kind of fall. We talked about Evergrande a few months ago. Things are not resolved there in China. Now, on the venture side, they're not doing Series A anymore. Any angel investor I know, they don't want late stage. So everyone's kind of like restructuring their strategy based around where the economy is. And no one is saying, hey, I think the economy is great. And if you guys go Google the debt clock, that clock continues to run up. So we have a whole bunch of pillars that are falling at one time. But I pray we have to keep our eyes on this, because usually what happens, something small may happen in another country, but when it comes here, it's a really big thing.
I think the audacity of the thought alone is like, it could inspire somebody to say like, oh, it happened over there and it worked.
I know Trump was like, damn,
he's like, yeah, why
could have stayed in office? You vote for Biden, let me just freeze your account. Great.
Well, and it wasn't just, I mean, that was one thing, but even I believe it was GoFundMe. I don't want to misspeak if it wasn't GoFundMe.
You're right.
Yeah, GoFundMe had like $9 million that was raised for the fund drivers, and that account got shut down. So anybody's not familiar, some truck drivers that are against the vaccine. In order to go into America, you have to be vaccinated if you're a truck driver in Canada, and they're on strike at the border, I believe, of Vancouver. And it's causing a lot of problems. People can't get through. They're saying like the noise because they're honking, and the strike has lasted like for a long period of time. So now they're taking extreme measures to try to break the strike. So freezing bank accounts, forcing GoFundMe to freeze that and shut that down. Because that was the money was raised so they could financially support themselves while they're not working. Yeah. And we're in the trucking industry. We have a truck. Shout out to Alex. So
beautiful too.
Trucking is a very, very thank you, appreciate that. It's a very pivotal and crucial business that keeps not only America going, but keeps all over the world going. Trucking, you see trucks going all across. So I say that to say this is a very interesting situation as far as how politics is being put into play with the private sector, mixed with COVID and the health sector. It's all like overlapping
and then
each other.
You got the criminal justice sector as well, because now when people are getting arrested, they're putting like a stamp on them, or the type of arrest that they're having now affects them long term. I think they could actually end up on a terrorist list, which means that they probably can't even get certain type of jobs and careers going forward. So it's like there's a lot of pressure on these people right now.
Yeah, strict COVID laws in Canada, and that's one of the reasons why we have not been to Canada. Toronto is one of our biggest markets, and we definitely want to go to Canada.
So bad.
It's so difficult right now. I mean, they keep shutting down. Like, I speak to people up there, and they're like, they shut it down. They open it up for a week, and then I think it's like if it's like 100 cases in like a certain area, then they shut it down. And they're paying people. It's like they're paying like $2,000 a month, like per person. And then it's like if you have like 4 people in your family, that's like $8,000 a month. So they're paying a lot of money. So it's an interesting way to go about it. But they have been extremely, extremely strict on COVID since the beginning. And 2 years later, and they still have extremely strict COVID rules and shutdowns. And, it's one of these things where you got to be careful what you ask for. Everybody wants to go to Canada for free healthcare. But with that level of, government control, also comes government control where they can just do certain, it's a trade-off. The government control to just say, this is what's going to be, we're going to take care of you, is the same government control that's like, no, stop it. At least in America, there's some level of checks and balances, and the voice of the people is still louder. People might not think that Americans have any freedom, but you'll be surprised when you travel outside of America. A lot of the stuff that happens in America is not tolerated and will never happen anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say we're the only country that let the corporations run the country. And then for those of you in government, and I'll touch here and get out, it's always better to have the people on your side than to have them against you. There's no regime that has stayed afloat forever. And they just treated the people bad. Even shout out to Mano and everybody who pulled up on Eric about the drill conversation. I'm like, that was a different kind of meeting. And I understand like there is some truth in what they're saying and the impacts that does have on the city. But I always say, and it's why I do my damnedest to give so much away. I always hated growing up in the environment that I was from. All the adults would tell the kids that was in the streets to get off the streets, but you wouldn't give them an alternative. So if he's going to tell them not to do drill, man, you better put together a plan to help kids make a lot of money, because it's expensive as hell to live. I go to New York and be like, damn, how y'all pizza $19 for 2 slices?
Yeah.
Huh? At the bodega, I'm like, what?
You throw New York is crazy.
Gotta go.
So how much? Chicken.
Boy.
London different.
Definitely expensive. The pound, nothing to play with. Whew. So yeah, we'll monitor this Canadian situation. Shout out to all the good people of Canada.
Prayers up to everybody in Canada.
And hopefully things can get better.
This that Red Panda Anthem.
Ian, what's up?
This that Red Panda Anthem.
Red Panda, what's
This
good?
that Red Panda Anthem.
Your
Whole
boy.
clip going up. I know they can't stand it.